This is Ryan Leary and William Tincup, and you are listening to Inside the C-Suite. Today we have Matthew Kim, who is the CEO of SoureCo, on with us. Today we're going to take some time and learn all about his journey, where he's from, how he grew up, his journey through life and business, and how he ended up to where he is today. So, Matthew, welcome into the call. Why don't you start us off by introducing yourself to the audience and telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First and foremost, thank you guys so much for having me.
Sure.
Truly an honor to be here. This is actually the first time I've ever been on a podcast, so should be a little interesting.
Oh,
The bar's
oh,
really low, Matthew. You're going to be
yeah.
fine. Just think of us at a Starbucks and we're just kind of sitting around talking about stuff.
Well,
Super
you're
Yeah.
easy.
doing fantastic so far.
So far. Yes.
Yeah, a little bit about me. Matthew Kim, CEO and co-founder of Sherco. Been in the healthcare space for almost 20 years now. And yeah, and
Let's go backwards, Matthew. What did you do before Sherco?
before Sherco was an insurance agency called Bayside.
Right?
And kind of before that, I was an insurance agent at Health Markets. And before that, I worked at Nordstrom.
So Sherco does what? What's the problem that they solve?
So the biggest problem that we're solving is right now, especially when it comes to employee benefits, and specifically on the medical side, it's a one-size-fits-all affair. And the thing about one-size-fits-all, it really doesn't fit anyone. And so what we're really doing is kind of creating what we call like the enterprise healthcare exchange. And this is the first time working Americans will actually have truly a choice in their health plan and benefits that are really kind of customized and unique for them. And that's what we're doing today.
So Matthew, what problem does Sherco, what do y'all solve? Like where did you start at?
Yeah, so one of the biggest problems that we're solving is in employer benefits today. It's kind of a one size fits approach, and
Yeah.
truly that one size fits all approach kind of doesn't fit anyone. And really, what we've done is we've created the enterprise healthcare exchange. And really, what this does is allows working Americans for the first time to be able to pick the best benefits and health plans specifically for them and their family. And we're just really excited about that.
So let me make sure I understand. So inside of it, this is company provided insurance? Corporate?
So it is company contributed health insurance.
Contributed. Thank you. Good. So company contributed insurance, and they just get Humana or United Healthcare, whatever, Blue Cross, and then whatever that plan is that they got, that was a plan for everybody.
Yeah,
And what?
and sometimes they might have one or two options,
Right.
and typically, especially for those that have a distributed workforce, a lot of pricing pressure, a lot of um, plan design that really doesn't suit the individual. Because as we kind of all know, and maybe we don't all know, is healthcare and your own personal wellness is a very personal journey.
100%.
And what people really kind of relate to and understand are like the brands they're familiar with when it comes to their healthcare is like their local hospital and the
Right.
hospital system. And that's where some of the big inefficiencies are with our current structure with how benefits and specifically health plans work.
Why solve this problem? I mean, you could have solved anything, right? So you could have pointed the gun towards anything and said, "Yeah, let me go solve this problem." Why did you pick this thing to solve?
There's a multitude of reasons. I like at its core, for me personally, I can kind of go into it in a minute, but like there was some tragedy that happened in my own life. And then second was really I have a deep, deep appreciation for this country. And just in regards to like, my family has the typical immigrant story.
Right.
And being able to give back and really drive impact and effective change specifically in healthcare, which has a real deep meaning for me personally. That's kind of why. And the second piece to this is, for me, I've always kind of seen the market and and really kind of see at moments like what we're seeing with AI, like the zeitgeist and the tidal change that's happening, and what the impetus was for where Sherco is today was actually a regulatory change called IHRA, the ICHRA, and that's where I really saw, oh, this is something that can really be a game changer in the industry, and it has been.
Matthew, let's go back to you said your family is a really interesting immigrant story, and I'd like to learn a little bit about that, right? So the people that are listening to this episode or to this show, to Inside the C-Suite, they're interested in understanding what makes the CEO tick, what makes
Hmm.
leadership motivated, what motivates you, and what your story was, and what your come up was. So maybe take us back a little bit, share a little bit about that story, and we'll start to learn a little more about you.
Yeah, typical immigrant story. My parents didn't have kind of two nickels to rub together to come over to the States. When my dad actually flew over here, it was um, my aunt that actually gave him $20, and that was the only $20 that he had.
Twenty
And just
dollars.
out of kind of pure will and grit, they they actually landed in Las Vegas of all places, and that's actually where I was born. Probably one of the only people you'll ever have on this
I
podcast.
kind of
Oh
I
yeah,
kind of feel like you were gonna go with
already unique.
he threw $20 into slot machines and the rest is history.
Done.
And, yeah, exactly. And from there, there's always these stories, and one of the ones that kind of always stick out to me is when my mom came here and she had to get work and not speaking really a lick of English. Um, what she did was she learned the Denny's menu inside and out, and it was the only English she really could speak. And she did that so that
Oh,
she could get a waitress job
oh,
at
that's
Denny's.
genius.
Uh-huh.
That that is
And so like
genius.
That
that
is
was her the English that she could pronounce was the Denny's menu.
Yeah.
that's
Well,
amazing.
the thing is, you make yourself indisposable. Like the mindset behind that. She could have learned 5, 10, 15 different menus, and it would have been a little bit watered down, a little bit harder, a lot harder. But by focusing on one, there's 20 Denny's in Las Vegas, so it's like if one doesn't work out, I go to the next one.
Exactly.
So genius move, genius move.
Yeah.
What were some of your heroes growing up? Who were some of the folks you
Um,
looked up to?
you know, kind of growing up when I was really young, my brother-in-law, interestingly enough, my eldest sister and I were 16 years apart. We have the same exact birthday, and yeah, January 30th.
Okay.
And her husband was actually her boyfriend when I was born.
Ha.
And they probably babysat you at different points.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They still think they babysit me.
Yeah, yeah. He changed your diaper. He's like part of the family. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
awesome.
And he's a huge big time athlete, even when we were younger, football team, volleyball team. So he was absolutely my kind of go to hero when I was younger. And as I got older, one of the I would never probably tell this to her face, but my my eldest sister was actually a big time hero of mine, and that's where I kind of learned the power of sales and persuasion and being able to communicate clearly, which I'm kind of failing at horribly right now.
No, you're not.
Nah,
You're doing fine.
Uh, and kind of seeing that's what actually gave me the courage to kind of go into sales when I was very young.
that is interesting. So, little Matthew, as a child, did you have any entrepreneurial spirit back then? Did you have your
Yeah.
lemonade stand? Were you mowing lawns? What were you doing?
Yeah, so definitely. When I remember in middle school, the easy thing for me was, going to the Costco trip with mom, and then
Mm,
buying candy, and then peddling candy at school,
hmm.
make a couple
Oh,
quick
that's awesome.
Yeah. See, I used
bucks.
to go to BJ's just to get the free samples of food and eat that.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
wasn't
No, but
selling
to
candy.
come in and already be rocking like 100 bags of M&Ms, dude,
That was the
you were a
thing.
hero.
Oh yeah, and that's what actually I found more friends that way. It became a little bit more popular, so that was
Oh,
definitely
100%.
a win-win there.
Like, dude's already
The,
always has gum on him. Always. It's just $1. Just $1.
exactly. Yep,
It's,
absolutely.
it's so genius. Where'd you end up going, or did you go to college?
I actually didn't. I throughout my whole kind of high school career, I kind of bet the farm. I wanted to go to an Ivy League school, and it kind of wasn't in my cards.
Right?
And then I couldn't kind of sit back at home. All my friends were going to college, so
Right.
that's why I made the trek out to California and went to kind of JC and started trying doing some part-time work at Nordstrom. And then I remember one of my coworkers at Nordstrom was talking about a guy that used to work there, and I was Al Bundy. I was selling women's shoes. I was pretty damn good at
I
it.
still watch the reruns of that today.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm just
it's
saying.
such a cool game because it's so, um, again, you layer on a lot of charm and confidence, but you compliment people like, okay, that looks really good. Or, you know what? I think first of all that's good but not great. Why don't we take a look at these other things? Everybody likes to hear that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and the thing that was great about Nordstrom, and it was so influential very early on, is the power of customer service.
yeah,
And that was something that they kind of ingrained into your DNA working at Nordstrom. And actually, before I worked at here in California, I worked in Seattle, which is where the headquarters, like the OG store was. And
really.
yeah, and that's where you would actually see the family, like some of the Nordstrom family, kind of going up and down the escalators, and that was
Wow.
like there was something to kind of be reverent about and like
Oh yeah.
learn and understand, and I think even at that age, it was like, oh, I want to be a suit like them one day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
wasn't one of the values of Nordstrom do right by the customer or some variation of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
And
they held to that.
I mean, your first day there, the video you're watching is a news anchor reporting on how Nordstrom actually refunded, the little old grandma a tire,
Yep.
and just to what length they would go to make sure to provide top-notch service.
Yeah. So customer service. You learned customer service there, and that was obviously it had an impression on you. Where did you go from Nordstrom, and how did you take that with you?
Yeah, so where I went from Nordstrom, and this was explaining, was a coworker of mine was kind of talking about like some big hotshot that would come in and buy shoes, and she told me that he started making a ton of money in the insurance business. And just being kind of young and dumb, I was like, oh, I'm interested. I can sell things, and that's how I fell into health markets, which was UGA back in the day, and that eventually got acquired by Blackstone.
Yep.
And that's how I kind of fell into health insurance for kind of small business owners.
So what was the product? What are products plural? So you talk to an entrepreneur, business owner, they got 100 employees or whatever the bit is. Were you more of a broker?
No, we were captive agents. This was definitely a
Wow.
little bit of multi-level marketing at its finest to a certain degree. There was definitely some Kool-Aid being drank at that
Oh yeah.
time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But other than the fact that I eventually learned that the products weren't the very best and that were great, but there was a lot that I learned, and that was probably one of the most kind of pivotal moments in my life that really shaped me, was going through that process. Because as you're kind of getting indoctrinated very early, they're promising $250,000, everyone does it, and once again, being ignorant and naive at that time, I believed it. Little did I know that the role was 100% commission, and I kind of got pulled into the 100% commission type situation. And from there, I basically bet the farm, had no more money. I was like overdrawn in my checking account. And that's actually when I got evicted out of my apartment.
Yep.
And that's why I lived out of my car for a couple of weeks, and like I just got really lucky that a coworker at the Orange County office, she just so happened to be looking for a roommate, and I just so happened to I made a sale, and it was just enough to kind of clear my overdrafts and just enough to put down the down payment on the apartment and have like I want to say it was like $8.15 to pay for.
It sounds like Taco Bell for a while.
That's so okay. So now you're homeless. You found the roommate, right? I'm liking this story, right? I'm
I
liking the
love it.
grit. I'm loving the grip behind this, right? So what what motivated you at that time, right? A lot of people would give up. They would give up and just say, you know what? I need to go get a job somewhere, which I'm sure obviously you had to, right? You went and got a job, but they give up. They're living in their
Yeah.
car. They don't have a place to go. They fall into a depression of some sort, and it just spirals from there. What motivated you and kept you going forward at that point?
The one, just the kind of personal shame of having to like go move back in with my parents was, if I
Hmm.
were to be 100% honest,
That's a motivator.
Yeah.
that was just not an option on the table for me. Kind of going back to my
Did
hometown
your
where
did your
all my
parents
friends,
know the situation?
a little bit, they kind of
Yeah.
knew
Well, they
that the
they
big,
do now.
yeah,
Yeah.
And your sister knows that she was your hero, so
Yeah.
we're doing good. We're doing good.
We're
a bunch of And yeah, I would say that was definitely kind of one of the things. And at that point in time, I still believed in the business
right.
and the
Mhm.
opportunity. And so that's what kind of kept me hanging on. And I wasn't, luckily, this was all of 2 weeks. I was kind of sitting in my car trying to figure it out. And then kind of the rest was history at that point. And we got very good at selling to kind of small business owners. These were micro business owners from like
Right.
person to a 10-person shop. And interestingly enough, my roommate's boyfriend is actually my co-founder.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Did y'all go? Was there another step in between there and Sherco?
Yeah, that was Bayside. And that's
That was
after
Bayside.
Health Market. So I got him a job at Health Markets, and it wasn't really getting him a job. You just kind of, if you can
Right.
fog, you can get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was doing okay at it. And we teamed up together, similar to how you'd see like a real estate agent kind of team up with someone. And we did very well, and we kind of rose to the top. I think at some point we were like the top 10 in the nation, and there was probably about 4,000 independent agents working for United
Wow.
Group Associates at that time.
So that's the President's Club. You're going to Hawaii. You're doing all kinds of fun
Yeah,
stuff.
the Kool-Aid. Mhm.
Making a lot of money. Notice I think
Hmm.
that model also has residuals, right? So you'd have the account, but as it goes on, later years into it, you'd also get residuals. Is that right?
Yeah, so that was a big kind of piece of the pie.
Yeah.
What eventually happened was we kind of started getting, because the way that they explained it was like, oh, all of the other individual plans or small group plans out there are horrible. We have the best products. And I forgot what the impetus was, but we started to like actually dig into some of these products and saw that they were just much better products.
Right.
And that's where we kind of made the change over into building our own little agency. And a lot of those clients from the UGA days actually moved over to the agency, and so that kind of helped get it off the ground.
Well, take us into the early days of the agency. What time period are we talking about?
Whew, I want to say probably I think it started 2009.
Okay.
And in 2009, the whole financial crisis was like the whole world was melting at that point in time.
Right.
And that's where my co-founder's now wife, so he broke up with his ex-girlfriend that was my roommate, introduced us to a friend, and he had actually come from the mortgage crisis, but much more mature about the situation, kind of set himself up well and looking at a new endeavor, and he was just interested in the whole insurance game. And long story short, he came and kind of joined with us, and that's when I started to really kind of learn a little bit about business. And up to that point in time, I was just a sales guy,
Right.
and that's and we were so bad in the beginning of the business. Wow, we were actually working out of our his house, my co-founder's house. His name's Matt as well, and we were too cheap to actually buy like another phone, so we would just pass the corded phone back and forth. Everything was done on paper.
Oh
We
yeah.
faxed or mailed application. It was just a horrific to even think about today.
No, no, no.
We
That's
did have computers and email in
Yeah,
2009.
we
yeah,
did.
but this is the origin story. This is actually the fun stuff
This
because
is
if you don't have that stuff, then you don't appreciate the growth.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So what's Matt's? What's his superpower?
Matt's superpower is he's a room tilter, is what we say. And what Matt's superpower is there's just a gravitational pull
Right.
in any room that he kind of enters, and that's where he's actually uh, the one that actually kind of put the partnership and kind of helped bringing Robert Ory into the
Right.
organization.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about that because I think Ryan and I saw the same press
Yeah.
release, and we're gonna have him on the show. We'll get it scheduled, but it's just a fascinating story, and great. I would say great hire, but great addition to the team.
Absolutely. And the thing with Robert, I mean, the way we kind of met was just serendipity. We were at a Laker event, charity event, and I forgot, I believe a friend of a friend introduced us to Robert, and Matt and Robert just kind of hit it off. Robert was talking about how he's planning on investing in different clinics, and then like one thing led to another, and Matt really kind of showcased like what Sherco was doing and really
Right.
about the purpose that we're trying to drive behind. And that's where Robert was all ears and kind of wide-eyed, and that's what really kind of captivated him to Sherco. And it's been about a year since that happened, or maybe even a little bit longer. And he's kind of been in the background following our journey. And as we've kind of gained traction and growth, he's been just super excited about it, to the point where now we've brought him onto the team just because his own personal story is really what kind of drives his own personal passion and why he's so on fire for Sherco. And just having that type of the name, and obviously like it's second to none, right? 7 championships, but
Can't beat it.
also just his own personal story just really helps drive really what we're all about here at Sherco, which is kind of being this catalyst for change in our healthcare system.
Yeah. So this may derail us, but I think it's a
Nah.
good question. Good question. If you're like me, you can't answer this question because I don't read. So I read, but not books. What book is on your nightstand right now?
I'm trying to think what is.
You never know when you ask this question if they actually read
Have a
a book
nightstand.
or have a nightstand. Yeah, it's one of these questions.
And if
Yeah,
not on the nightstand, what's been the most influential book in
so
your
there's
in
actually what's on the nightstand right now. There's actually two things. One is a book process, but it's under Gino Wickman and the EOS group. The second book is actually a book, and it's not really a book, it's more of a digital book on just what's happening with AI, what Microsoft is doing specifically in some of their data and tooling. And it's just a personal hobby that I enjoy doing at times.
where do you see the crossroads of AI and what you do, especially the insurance industry in general, but because you're sitting on a ton of data. And so there's
Absolutely.
all kinds of, I mean, and again, it's a regulated industry. We totally get that, but you're
Mhm.
sitting on a ton of data. Where do you see kind of not the flying car stuff, but just like the next couple of years, how is it going to impact your industry?
There's And when you kind of think about the AI piece, there's different levels, right, of the stack between the infrastructure, the platform, the tools, and then the application layer. Where I see the immediate impact, and it's already kind of happening, is in the tooling area. And really the tooling around how do you actually, because one of the biggest problems, specifically in healthcare, is a data problem.
Yep.
Is there everyone's sitting on a corpus amounts of data,
Siloed.
but none of it's transparent because
Right.
it's all kind of hidden under the veil of HIPAA, which is not really necessary.
Right.
And two, it's the there's no incentive to actually provide that data, especially by the big heavyweights that have that data. And that's where I actually see, specifically with AI right now, what is kind of connecting the dots when it comes to this data. There are just such simple things that are just so common and expected in everything else that we have from a product that is so not available in healthcare and benefits. Even something simple as an accurate doctor search
Yeah.
that's connected to the actual health plan.
Yeah.
Just these simple things. Booking an office visit is still hard to do. So
Right.
that's where I can see AI being able to help stitch some of this information together, because that's really what's happening is a lot of the consumers are just, they don't have the information they need to be able to make the right choices.
Yeah, and it's still mostly reactive. If AI can it can fulfill one promise for me in healthcare in particular, and insurance in particular, is that it shows you how to be proactive about something. So you go in, it understands some of the things that are going on with you, and then it recommends, hey, by the way, here are the 5 things you need to do by the next appointment. That type of
Hmm.
stuff. I can't help but think that if we go from being a reactive society to proactive and getting in front of some of these issues, not all, just I think AI can help there. I mean, I might be wrong, but
Yeah,
my hope is,
with just from my own kind of personal history and experience, I absolutely see that as kind of the first layer.
yeah,
Just be able to surface these basic things just so that people have the information and kind of know where they're sitting on the scale between them and everyone else. The biggest piece that I do not have a solution for is the
so,
actual incentive to change
yeah,
when it comes to your own personal healthcare journey.
good call.
And that's the kind of the incentive to change, the motivation and the discipline to consistently stay on that train. I've even faltered many times in my own
Oh
life.
yeah, who hasn't?
Exactly. And that is where I definitely see that there's possibly an opportunity there, but there's just two kind of massive forces. One is just like our biological DNA to be lazy, and and
Yes.
and then so that's the kind of two opposing forces where you just don't see the instant gratification which our kind of culture expects with everything that they do now.
Yeah. Matthew, what do you think that might look like? What do you think the AI how does AI help me with that situation if I'm just being lazy?
That's once again, I don't have the exact solution, but the,
I think it explains consequence. I mean,
yeah,
I think
Yeah.
it does gives you a better idea, Ryan. If you were to say to somebody that smokes, let's say, hey, for every cigarette you smoke, here's what the data is saying right now.
Hmm.
It shaves off 5 hours of your life. That cigarette, 5 hours of your life. Okay, so you smoke a pack a day.
Here's a
Go ahead
black
and add,
lung.
right. Well, no, but see, the thing is it can't, it isn't just fear, because that's the way we've operated
Hmm.
forever.
It doesn't
Like,
work.
okay, do bad things, you're going to have bad things happen to you. No, this is more, it can be specific and personal to a person.
exactly.
And with
So
wearables, it can actually tell you in real time. So you connect some of those dots and it
Hmm.
can actually say, hey, stop drinking. Your liver's on overload right now. Stop drinking. Now,
yep.
again, if you have real time data, you might be less apt to be lazy.
I totally agree, and I think I think the component there, if someone could actually build, there's like two things I'm seeing. One is exactly what you're talking about, William,
Yeah.
is that real time feedback loop. The the second one is if someone could nail basically be like, based on your information, I can
Mhm.
I know within a certain margin of error when you're going to die.
Yeah, your death clock. Oh, I
Well, that
want a
just
death
went
clock.
dark.
No, no, I
That's
want a
like,
death clock.
do you ever see the show with the app Countdown?
Huh.
Oh, you
No,
gotta watch it. My kids watched it and they don't go to sleep after that, right? So the app tells you when you're gonna die. And so when you do the app, it counts down. And so you
Oh yeah.
know
Oh
in
yeah.
like 33 hours you're gonna die. And it just
You're less apt at that
yeah,
point to be lazy
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
it's like you only have so much time on the planet, which we all know, but we know it vaguely,
exactly,
Yeah.
right?
exactly.
If it's pinpointed to you, not to people like you, but to you,
Right.
I don't think we waste as much time. I think
Yeah,
we
the other unlock that I see is, and you kind of see this. I forget the name of the company. They have it's basically a continuous glucose monitor,
right.
and they're now beginning to use it towards like a fitness and wellness routine because that's like the
Oh,
other piece. If that could actually analyze blood, and there's no way in today's technology for something that small form factor to be able to provide that. But
right,
between that, the environmental, your sleep, your diet, all of that, you can get super accurate, especially with AI.
right. Oh yeah. I still have a watch that monitors my the oxygen levels at night when I go to sleep. So when I wake up, it'll tell me. And it's like I'll look down and it'll tell me exactly my REM sleep and all this stuff. It'll tell me. And the next iteration of that watch actually has a record to where
Interesting.
you can hear, like if you're snoring or whatever. Let's say you're having
Hmm.
problems with sleep. It'll actually record it for you if you want it to. It doesn't do anything it does
That's
if you
very
don't want
cool.
it to.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to learn about that because again, sleep is so important to health.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it in school. We don't talk about it in college. We don't talk about it at work. Like Ryan's been on me because he's gotten healthier over the last year, and some of that is just pure. He
Sleep.
has a routine, sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate it because I'm such the guy that's always like looking for the new edge, the new hack
Oh
of the
yeah,
thing.
oh
But the
yeah,
Hmm.
reality is the 80/20 here is very simple. It's sleep, diet, and exercise
yep,
consistently.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
yep,
that if you can knock those three out and have that 10 out of 10, then you're gonna have a long and healthy life.
100%, hundred
I
percent.
went and got the mask, the CPAP,
Yeah,
and I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, I go 7 to 8 hours every night now, and within a few minutes, I'm knocked out. I'm done for the night once I have it on. Best sleep of my life. I can't sleep without it anymore.
That's
but
awesome.
Neither can my wife because she can actually sleep. Yeah.
I mean, I'm Darth Vader, but other than
Yeah.
that,
For some
yeah,
Yeah.
reason, I don't have bruises anymore. Like it's all good. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that's too
But yeah.
funny. So one question is how do people thrive around you? Like, what type of leader are you at your core? Like, what do you like to surround yourself with?
Can you maybe explain a little bit deeper in regards to
So
that?
I'll give you an example from me. I like people that are really passionate, they're really
Mm-hmm.
ambitious, they're really smart, and they don't take my words as gospel.
Yep.
So they'll parse my words or they'll throw it back in my face and say, "Yeah, I don't agree with that at all." Like I like contrarians.
Uh-huh.
And so I thrive around contrarians, people that actually say, "Yeah, that sucks," because it gets me to reevaluate and
Uh-huh.
go, "Yeah, that actually sucks. That's fair. Yeah, you're right. My bad."
But sometimes you have to let him just go with the idea, just from experience. So if you ever
Just
work with this guy, sometimes you just got to let him go with it and come to his own conclusions.
yeah,
So
that is a good point. That is a good point. That is a good point. But so who thrives around you?
the people I would actually kind of turn that question and say, like, where do I thrive, and like who are the
Yeah.
people I thrive with is very similarly. I love being with people that have really kind of honed their craft to a certain
Right.
level of expertise.
Smart.
And it just and being able to see them operate at that like mastery level, that is something that I definitely get energy from. And I love seeing that. And just the people that are just constantly kind of grinding that axe. They're like, and the other one is very similarly, like I like people that can kind of push against what I'm saying,
Right.
uh, in the form of like with logic and
With logic.
reasoning,
100%.
uh,
100%. An
but
emotional
also
argument goes nowhere with me.
exactly, and yeah, that's definitely people I definitely try to surround myself with that have that expertise and that craft and that mastery, and then yeah, and that's where I get a lot of energy. And also people that are just wildly curious because I'm just wildly curious at all times.
Yeah. Curiosity, I think, is kind of the thread for me. I need someone who's direct, curious, and that could just kind of give it to me. Like William always says, "How do you like your feedback?" I just like the feedback. Like, just give it to me. I don't need the story.
Yeah.
I don't need to be
Yeah.
let down easily. I just want
Hmm.
to know it, right? Just kind of give it
Right.
to me. Curious
Absolutely.
curious about, and sometimes this question sounds kind of standard, but I'm really fascinated by habits of successful people. So not like, the 7 habits of highly successful people, things like that, but
Uh,
really like what
you
what
got
are
here
the
for a reason.
yeah, you got here for a reason, right? And so like really like what's the habits today that keeps you successful? But what were some of the habits historically that have kept you from being successful?
No,
Maybe
that's a great
share some
question.
light there.
It's That's a great question. One of the habits I believe that's really kind of helped me be successful, and it's just so plain, but I wake up really early. Like
Yeah.
Hmm.
typically, I'm waking up somewhere between like 3 and 4 a.m. And I especially now with kids, it's just like the
Yep.
peace and quiet and to kind of have the head down
Hmm.
time to kind of go deep into work. That is definitely that. Plus, getting a good workout in the morning gets you kind of energized for the day. Uh, and then that would probably be one of the most consistent habits I've had for probably 20 years is those two right there.
Right.
The one of the habits that have actually really strained my growth early on was just I used to have this mantra of kind of lone wolf
Right.
and like I can figure it all out on my own. I don't need to network. I don't need to like do any of this fancy BS. And you still don't need to do a lot of fancy BS. But the reality is
It's
the
true.
the I've kind of thought about this deeply, and we've gone through as an organization, especially my partners and I, so many like Death Valley lows where we're at the cutting edge of not being able to hit payroll. And I've kind of wondered, like, but somehow we always come out swinging. And obviously, a big piece of that's resilience. But another piece I've really thought about this is really it's our ability at that point in time to kind of generate luck. And what I mean by that is typically when you're like an executive, or especially when you're a small organization, you're kind of still heads down, you're still in the day to day, but only in these moments of like almost sheer certain death without something spectacular happening
Hmm.
do you kind of start really branching out and kind of what I would say is like increasing your luck surface area. And that's what's happened. Every time again, I've kind of really reflected. I'm like, man, that was the only time I like went to the conference and met with these people and did these things and made these phone calls. And that is something now that I've seen a lot of value in trying to maintain kind of keeping that luck surface area large.
I love that. What a
Yeah.
great answer. I mean, absolutely great answer. So, in similar vein, but advice you'd give your high school self. So, what would you tell yourself now? Things that you've learned along the way, and kind of make that person a little bit more resilient, or make the person just kind of get it faster?
Yeah,
What hack would you give them?
I mean, the first hack would just be like go into technology much sooner.
Right, right,
And understand the power of innovation and how and what type of value creation and capture that can be created there. Second one is courage. Have much more courage. And even though a lot of people look at me and what I've done as having a very high risk tolerance, there's still, I think, a lot of self insecurity at that young age as to what to do.
Yeah.
So worried about what everyone else was thinking and not being as successful as my friends. And I think the third piece would definitely be around like understand that there's a lot more to this world than just making some dollars, and like finding a pursuit of purpose and passion will carry you so much further to provide so much more fulfillment. And that's, I wish I learned that 20 years ago.
right. I don't have anything else.
I've
Drops
got
mic,
nothing.
walks off
Yeah,
stage.
absolutely. Matthew,
Matthew,
this
you've
has
been,
been
yeah,
this has been fantastic. Great conversation. Your
100%.
journey is inspiring, from living in your car to being where you are today and on your way. So
And
we
all
Oh no,
the
really
you
ups and
guys
downs in
have a good
between.
one. Hopefully.
we thought, hey, we think you did really well, man.
Oh,
So
you were awesome.
thank you for
Yeah.
coming on.
Oh, this was great. Thank you guys so much, and like thanks for bringing on a newbie.